Okay. Madam Monster's Halls. Wait. Giro. Take a look at the plan. Okay, Madam Monster's Halls. This, I had to read a book. Let's call it book one. Book one was about women who committed war crimes, how they were treated by the legal systems, and book one had what do you call an assumption regarding categories, an assumption regarding specific categories of narration of crimes committed by women that I found interesting, not only because it wasn't talked about. So what I did is went on and tried to find the source. The source is this book, Madam Monster's Halls. Beyond Madam Monster's Halls is the second edition. So I want to read this. Mostly because, I still think that in book one, they had some issues regarding how to use categories, because an emerging category is not to be used top down, it just needs to be used bottom up, and at least according to what you call good reason in my mind, a category that emerged bottom up and that someone accrued, let us say, from different narrations should not be used as if it were a logical necessity, not an analytical category. In Kantian terms, book one used a synthetic judgment as a priori category. So that was my problem at the beginning. Also, I had another problem because book one was very legal, and therefore a lot of big theoretical and ontological assumptions are given, among which that war crime committed by a man, war crime committed by a woman are the same. I'm not judging that. In fact, I think pretty much war crimes are the same. Genocide is genocide, but I have a problem when that is a new and potentially changing theory in the field, as in saying that it's just late and it's not being done usually, and it's only like last 20 years it has been said that is the case, that women can commit war crimes. So it's really not, there is no public consensus, no, there is a consensus in general in the public that a crime committed by a woman, a crime committed by a man are the same, for the simple reason that patriarchy and misogyny and gender roles identify women and men with different roles and different with respect to violence. So you have this theory that is actually not as clear or uncomplicated or peaceful as they might want to pass it, but they want to argue that for example, a genocide should be punished in the same way if the perpetrator is a woman or if the perpetrator is a man. Now, the point is that legally that has not been done usually because women were not considered as culpable or as punishable or responsible for a genocide. So we go back to gender roles. These two different realities of gender roles and the push to to make equal the responsibility of a man, the responsibility of a woman, creates a strange effect I would say, a strange effect in the book one, because book one calls for putting crimes as the same regardless of who commits them, but at the same time does not acknowledge that there is no such possibility for normalization, because in the end the definition of what is violence is a gendered category. So the problem is gendered categories, and the categories they begin with. They use these what I call the synthetic judgment in Kantian terms of mothers, monsters, whores. That is from the book that I'm reading here, to say that narrations that include these archetypes are wrong, okay, and are used by legal teams in order to help their employer. And I think, okay, it's fine, of course. If you're a legal team, you do whatever the fuck you can. So now we have this book one that it's really interesting, and it's really interesting cases, but its premises and its normative suggestion are basically based on two very different ontologies. The premise is based on we live in a patriarchal world, we live in a world where gendered categories are there, and gendered categories influence self-perception and general perception, and these gender categories regarding women and violence are this, and this. Okay? The normative push is we should treat all crimes as equal, given, I would say, given whoever is the perpetrator. And that is right, but also does not agree with the idea that there is a gender definition. Because crimes are defined, because there is no objectivity, that there is only intersubjectivity. There is no if there is a frame that says that women cannot commit genocide, then the point of affirming that is a break from the gender narration. If you say that a woman and a man committing genocide are the same and doing the same crime, that's a break from the gender narration of Madame Monster Horse, but it's also a break from the gender narration of the legal teams. And most of all, you are saying that women and men do the same violence. Okay, so we have two planes that need to be thought about, and that they conflict and they are brought into conflict. You have on one side reality, as in that is a plant. Yay, plant. You can see it, I can touch it, it's cute. But I also can say that is a plant, and that plant is in a big vase, and that plant doesn't need to be watered because it rains enough in this city. Now, first one, the thing, it's still a category, it's still a narration, language, everything that can be said in a language is linguistic, okay, done with done, but still a thing, an X. The X is knowable. No. We all know how that goes, right? Can't, and so on. So we know. The narration on the other end, when I add that we don't have to water the plants here, this narration, I know, you don't have to know, you have to trust me if I say that. So, yes, let's just say that we have two planes. One is thing, the other is additional information, additional narration, a frame of the thing. Literally, a frame of the thing. We can go fast, nearer. So that's what I want to underline. Book 1 conflicts narration and thing. The narrative pushes on the thing, the description and the analysis is of the narration. So after a book that tells me about how women are object and subject of a narration of women's violence, the conclusion is narration doesn't matter. We have to treat all violence the same. But doesn't say and just assumes that all violence is the same. Who says that female and men commit the same genocide? They have different roles from the beginning. From the beginning, if you think about it, even during the Holocaust, women and men have different roles. So a nurse who tortures and kills and enforces the order of a doctor in a research lab during the Holocaust does something that is the same but is different, right? It's not exactly the same thing. It's violence, but is all violence the same? Is the same or not? I mean, I'm fine if you say yes, it's all the same. I'm fine if you say no, it's not. What I'm not fine is assuming that it's the same in a normative prescription at the end of a book that doesn't qualify nor describe all violence as the same, nor it justifies why all violence should be the same. Why would I consider genocide done by, for example, why should I consider? Let's get with one of those examples, torture. Why should I consider torture as the same when it's been done by one or another? Okay, it's torture, but even to men, do they do the same violence? What is violence? Now, pretty sure I can easily live with all violence in the same. Not a problem, I'm fine with that, actually. What really don't like is when there is an assumption about reality that is never been treated, that is never been talked about. What is only been talked is a social explanation and narration that is part of reality, because gender roles are social doesn't mean that they don't affect personal lives materially. So what I wanted to say, to go for after book 1, is understanding the structural categories that they were using, and that's why I went to Beyond Mother's Monsters also. And now I think I have to. Can I pause? Well, I don't think so. So pause, then read.